name is Lawrence.
معكم محمد صيام واليوم
مرحبا
أحكي لكم
معكم
عن
رياض حتى نحكي عن أجدد
Hi, this is Jane. Today, you're gonna... Hi, my name is Albert and I'm
Hi, this is Albert.
Hi everyone, I'm Khadija from MediaCast.
Hello everyone, this is William from MediaCast.
Hey,
Today
everyone.
I'm gonna show you guys.
Welcome everyone.
Good day, everyone. Welcome once again to the MediaCast Virtual Summit. If this is your first time to join us for the day, I'd like to welcome you. Glad to have you on board. And if you've been here in the previous sessions, I'd like to welcome you once again and thank you for continuing to join us. My name is Ram. I'm the marketing manager for video in MediaCast, and I will be with you for the next 40 to 45 minutes to discuss a very interesting topic with you. I'd like to go to the topic of creative workflows. Now, for all content creators out there, whether you're into photography, video editing, live streaming, for instance, and even design, you're always on the lookout for tools that will allow you to produce your output in an efficient and accurate manner. You want something that will empower you to take your creative vision into reality, while at the same time minimizing the distractions brought about by the complications of tools and the operations of applications. And if you're a photographer, then I think you will find this session very interesting. If you're into video editing or video production, this session is right for you. If you are doing any live streaming, whether you're a musician who wants to get your work out there or even a gamer, I'm sure you will find this session meaningful. And if you consider yourself a content creator in any way, shape, manner, or form, I'm glad to have you on board, and I hope you stick with us because this one's for you. So without further ado, let's bring in our guest for this session. I'd like to bring in Andrew Coomber, Sales and Operations Director of Loupedeck. How are you, Andrew?
I am very good, Ram. Thanks very much for having me on board at this event. In fact, I couldn't have pitched our company any better than you've done. So I think actually this could be a really short session.
Well, welcome. I'd like to welcome you officially, virtually to the Middle East. I know that we've had plans previously of you coming in here and meeting some of the creators out here in the region, but unfortunately we can't do that as of now.
No, this is a good second best. And I think, yeah, across the globe, content creators, business people such as ourselves, we've been having this challenge of not being able to travel. So being able to get tools and techniques out there to people virtually is a great way of making this happen.
Right, exactly. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Now, let me go on direct to the topic. Before we talk about Loupedeck's line of products, let's talk about Loupedeck, the company. For those who are tuning in who have not yet heard of Loupedeck, can you tell more about Loupedeck, who you guys are and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, sure. I think we've got a couple of PowerPoint slides which just give people something to look at other than my face while I'm talking. And as if by magic, look at this. Okay, do you want to whiz on to the third slide for me, please, guys? So whiz past this one. And another one, that'd be perfect. There we go. Right, so let me give you a bit of background about who we are and what we do. So, company was originally set up in Helsinki in Finland, Northern Europe, in 2016. And with all the best companies, we set out to solve a problem. And I'm sure as content creators, we're all familiar with the horrible software interfaces and the multiple menus and keyboard shortcuts that all software now has. So there's almost a barrier between you being creative, just created by that software. Can we remember all those shortcuts? Can you accurately move a slider with your mouse and really get the results you want? So the idea was that basically, how do we produce a hardware controller which gives you the creativity you want on your photos and your videos. There are other consoles out there, there are other solutions out there, but on the whole, these tend to be very much a corporate solution. So it could be that if you're doing video and you're working for an agency, they have, I don't know, a black magic edit desk, but it could be there's only one. And of course, that's sat in the main office. You have to book time in it. And of course, at the moment, you may not even be going into that office. So we wanted a personal solution for people editing photos, editing video, creating music, really any creatives. So what we came up with, if you want to whiz on to the next slide for me, is basically a common user interface for all software. So the big challenge is that if you're using multiple software, all the controls are in different places. Do you know where the menu shortcuts are? Do you know where all the different sliders and things are? Wouldn't it be easier if you actually had a physical controller which allowed you to adjust exposure, adjust color balance? And that's exactly what Loupedeck does. And not only does this work for your videos, for your photos, for audio, it even works with day-to-day software as well. So that's the whole concept behind Loupedeck, to give you those physical controls for the virtual workspace that you're in. So I'll give you a quick overview of the timeline. Look at that, as if by magic. So, like I said, back in 2016, the company was founded by our CEO, Mikko Kesti, who got into digital photography, found he loved photography, but didn't like the editing. And let's face it, I don't think there's any photographer out there who does actually enjoy editing. So his idea was, I have a mixing desk for music. Can I have a mixing desk for photographs, which works in Lightroom? And the original concept was born way back, say, in 2016. 2017, we launched into the market on a crowdfunding platform called Indiegogo. We set out to raise 75,000 euros. We actually raised over 350,000 euros. So we knew that there was a good concept here, a good product we could launch on the market. So shortly after, end of 2017, we actually launched Loupedeck worldwide, which is when I joined the company to start dealing with our retailers and all our distribution. Loupedeck, original product, was great, worked brilliantly with Lightroom. That gave us the chance to really improve the concept, get a better product, and in the middle of 2018 launched Loupedeck Plus. So Loupedeck Plus really still primarily a device for photography, but took us out from just working with Adobe to working with some Apple software, as well as going into video editing. Now, we'll talk a bit more about the actual products a wee bit later on, but the feedback we really got from our users with Loupedeck Plus was they wanted a lot more customization. They wanted to be able to set the device up exactly to suit their workflow. Now, because this has physical dials and a very fixed layout, there was really a limit to how much customization you could do and still be able to use the device. So the end of 2020, we launched Loupedeck CT. Loupedeck CT, a lot more versatile, a lot easier to use with video, a lot easier for audio and for other programs as well. So that really took us into proper video production. And then literally about a month ago now, we launched Loupedeck Live. So Loupedeck Live is really the little brother of Loupedeck CT, which gives you a lot of the versatility of Loupedeck CT, but in a much smaller package, a lot more versatile. So shall we have a look at the video for Loupedeck CT?
Andrew, that's a very engaging video. That's pretty cool, I must say. I'd just like to focus on what you mentioned earlier, and which I really love, because you said you're looking at something that's more for the individual rather than for corporate. And I think even more it resonates now in this current situation, right? A lot of us are working at home, and we won't want to share as much of our equipment as possible, especially in these times. So I think, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of content creators who will find Loupedeck to be a very interesting product. And also the fact that it's all in one. I think it's really, like, if it's flexible across different applications, then that saves me a lot of time in every aspect of my workflow, which is just amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I talk to so many creators who, even just within the Adobe suite, they might be mixing, using Lightroom photos, then Photoshop, doing some work within Premiere, and even on those programs from one supplier, you're looking at different user interfaces, which, the software's different. Who designs this software? It's designed by software engineers who aren't normal people. Their brains work differently.
Exactly right. And also, while it helps you, creatively, the complexity of the application sometimes becomes a burden. So it doesn't translate smoothly from what you're seeing in your brain towards what your output is. And I think Loupedeck is an excellent bridge for that. Now, you've mentioned earlier that the first Loupedeck started out really as an Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign, which resonated with a lot of people based on just the amount of people that responded and the amount of money that you have managed to raise. Can you tell me how you've evolved and developed your line of products since that time?
Yeah, and I think the important thing with all our products, and I know that every company out there says this, but we actually listen to our users. So we have a very, very active user base on social media. We talk to creatives on a very, very regular basis, and for every vertical we're in, whether it's photo, whether it's video, music, gaming, we have a product specialist based in our head office, and all that they're actually tasked with is making sure the product is suited for that particular type of user. So video is different to music, is different to whatever else. So it's really, really important that we make sure the product works properly for that particular type of user. And we won't launch into another vertical till we've done that research, we've spoken to the users, and it's constant feedback. So Loupedeck Plus, which was the replacement for the original Loupedeck, all the feedback from that, well, virtually all of it, came back from our user base. Of course, there will always be people out there who want something very specific, which, it might be that there's only a very small minority of people work like that. But in most cases, the feedback is pretty universal, and it's surprisingly universal worldwide as well.
So after the Loupedeck Plus, Loupedeck Plus, you've mentioned earlier that it's started out primarily as an editing console for photography, but it doesn't seem to. It seems flexible enough because it's compatible with a wide range of applications, with all the major creative applications, really. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah. So again, shall we just bring up this PowerPoint so people can see the products we're actually talking about? And by the wonders of magic,
it's gonna be there.
It's gonna be there. So let's get past the pretty picture. There we go. So Loupedeck Plus, about the size of a keyboard. You've got a series of fixed dials on here, and the layout of Loupedeck Plus and Loupedeck before it, was specifically laid out for Lightroom and also for using both hands at once. So we never set out to replace the keyboard and the mouse. These basically are all tools that work alongside your keyboard and your mouse. So, of course, the challenge is with multiple software that if you look at Loupedeck Plus, the controls are basically printed on there for things such as exposure, white balance, etc., etc. So all these controls have a place not just in photography, but also in video. The challenge with using Loupedeck Plus with video, and we accepted this really from day one when we did it, was that because the controls are laid out and marked for Lightroom, they are not perfect for when you're working in Premiere, in Photoshop, or in Final Cut. The product actually works brilliantly and works far better than we ever expected it to do in video, to the extent that we know about 30–40% of our users of Loupedeck Plus actually use it for video. But it has limitations. If you're going to be working primarily in Lightroom, you don't need a portable product. I would actually still say go for Loupedeck Plus. It's a fantastic, fantastic product. It's actually the device I use when I'm editing photos still. Mainly because I'm not a videographer. I wouldn't really claim to be a photographer. But yeah, I want to edit my pictures as quickly and as easily as possible. And yeah, we have user feedback, and we used to claim with Loupedeck Plus that if you're editing photographs in Lightroom, it speeds you up 25–35%. But actually, our users were telling us, actually, it's halving the time it takes me to edit a wedding, edit a commercial shoot. And if you can imagine coming back from, let's say, a wedding with 200–300 pictures, if you can take that editing time down from 4 or 5 hours to 2 or 3 hours, it's increasing the amount of work you can do. It's increasing your creativity. Basically, it's a huge time saver. It lets you, as Ram said earlier, it lets you get the image you can see in your mind's eye on the screen, as opposed to actually worrying about the software itself. So from Loupedeck Plus, we thought, actually, okay, how do we get a device that works across multiple software? And the idea was, how do we get something that works in Photoshop? And this started off life as a physical device, and it grew bigger and bigger and bigger and had more and more and more dials and buttons on it, just to cope with the huge range of different options, different uses of Photoshop. And the solution we came up with is Loupedeck CT. And yeah, I might use Loupedeck Plus when I'm editing my pictures. Loupedeck CT, I love. So Loupedeck CT, at the top, you have a set of touchscreen buttons, so a 4x3 grid. If you want to stick the camera back on me, I shall grab a Loupedeck Plus. Sorry, Loupedeck CT. There we go. So the picture's now, there we go. So Loupedeck CT, hopefully we can all see that. So you've got the buttons at the top, and this is basically a touch screen. Now we've got to get the reflection off that. So these are all touch buttons, a bit like your mobile phone, and basically you can have as many buttons on here as you want. So you can have pages and pages of buttons, really as many as you need. And then dials down either side. And again, these dials can have multiple uses as you scroll through them. And then what's really clever, and I love, is we've got this nice big interactive dial at the bottom. So rotation around the outside, and then a touch screen in the middle. So you can basically have as many controls on this, as many workspaces as you want. So great for video, great for photography, great for everything, because literally it can be tailored to whatever you want. Again, you saw from my job description, I'm the Sales and Operations Director. I spend way too much time delving through Excel spreadsheets. So I actually have a profile set up for this to give me all the shortcuts that I need in Excel, rather than actually trying to remember all the keyboard shortcuts. So it's not only for creators of photo and video, it's even for creators of Excel spreadsheets. So fantastic, fantastic product, and really incredibly versatile. And taking you beyond just photography, say into video, into music as well.
That's very nice. I love the Loupedeck CT. I have the Loupedeck Plus myself, and I'm using it for editing. And I've engaged with a lot of content creators here, and they're saying that what's beautiful about having these consoles with specific buttons and commands right at their fingertips is that they don't have to rely on what they see on the screen. So they could see their whole work right out there on full screen, and they could manage the controls. And another thing is that because you don't, you're right what you said earlier, the devices that we have are old fashioned and not really suitable for creative applications. So for instance, instead of if you're in the Lightroom application and then you're using your mouse to edit the saturation and all, you can do it only one at a time. But with Loupedeck Plus, you could combine all of these applications, all of these commands, all of these adjustments all at the same time, and it works. So that's very cool. The Loupedeck CT, thank you for showing that as well. Now there's another product that I think which is very interesting. The progression, really, you started off with editing, and then you became even more flexible with the Loupedeck CT. Now this is a very new product that you've just released. Can you tell us more about the next product?
Of course. Just to go back on what you said, I'll give you a very, very surprising piece of information, which I actually looked up recently. So we're all used to using a keyboard and a mouse. Actually, the keyboard layout we all use is based on the mechanical layout of a keyboard set out in the 1940s, and we're trying to use this with modern software. The computer mouse was actually developed way back in the 1970s, long before anybody thought about anything like Photoshop, anything like that. So we really are trying to use outdated tools. But no, the really exciting product, the product that I love, and is actually the one that sits on my desk most of the time now, is Loupedeck Live. So we've all seen this huge growth in live streaming. It's really so day-to-day now. It's exactly what we're doing now. And so much content creation splits between actually producing videos, producing images, producing whatever, plus also stream those live to your audience as well. And although there are products out there which are designed specific for that streaming market, the real thing that they don't have is knobs. It's that simple. If you want to control the volume on your live stream, the natural way to do that is to turn a knob left or right. We're used to that in audio. All the other live streaming products out there, unless it's a specific audio mixer, doesn't have those knobs on them. So basically, Loupedeck Live takes the technology of the CT and aims it not just at content creation, but also actually at live streaming as well. So we have integrations there for Twitch, for Streamlabs, and for OBS Studio. Now, the product was literally launched just over a month ago. This is a brand new channel for us. Yeah, we have experts in live streaming. I would love to say it's perfect. Now, it's not there yet, but for all our users out there who are using this for streaming, they all love it. They really do. And being a smaller product, it's also that little bit more portable as well. So if you are traveling a lot, it's dead easy to slip in the case with your laptop, and you've still got all the creative integrations that we had with Loupedeck CT, just in a much, much smaller package. The only thing you really lose out on is the command dial at the bottom. So yeah, definitely a very, very exciting product. And I think is somewhere between Helsinki and you guys in Dubai as we speak.
Yeah, I know. We're expecting some shipment soon, and then we're excited to bring it to our content creators right here. So this opens up Loupedeck to a wider range of people. You've got gamers, you've got musicians, as I've mentioned earlier. So there's anyone who's going on live stream like this, and it's very prevalent now. Everybody, with the tools that we have, it's very easy to set up live stream shows. And I think Loupedeck Live will really help a lot. Now, I understand that trying to develop and engineer these types of products to be compatible across a wide range of creative applications is very a challenging task. Now, for us who are potential Loupedeck users, how easy is it for creative people to install and configure Loupedeck, and do they work right out of the box?
Well, I'm going to say, I would not claim to be technical at all. So as I said before, we have our product specialists for each one of these fields. So when you take Loupedeck out of the box, you download the software, and for whichever application you're using, there is a pre-set out set of workspaces, a pre-set out workflow. So basically, where for the majority of people you would expect the buttons to be. So yes, there's a time that you need to spend learning the new workflow, because we've all been using keyboard shortcuts for such a long time. So out of the box, up and running, realistically, probably within an hour, you will never ever want to go back to using keyboard shortcuts. The important thing then is you can actually customize the Loupedeck to whatever you want. You can move buttons around, you can put whatever functions you want where. So everybody's workflow is different. So what we tend to recommend doing is, start working with Loupedeck, and then the commands that you use on a regular basis, put those somewhere easy, quick for you to access. Because commands that I use, commands that you use, are going to be different to commands that other people use. And this is really where Loupedeck CT and Loupedeck Live came in. This ability to be able to customize the device specifically for your workflow. And I'm just thinking, before we talk a bit more about integrations, you'd like the video for Loupedeck CT. We should really watch the one for Loupedeck Live.
Oh yeah, that's right. Actually, my producer is also signaling me that. Let's show the Loupedeck Live.
We're getting carried away.
Streaming. Being part of something bigger. Gaming to me is all about community. Community is the game.
Composition, light, ambience. There's something surreal and dreamy when you find beauty in decay.
That's a wonderful video, Andrew. I could see that, it was showing the live streaming through the gamer, but I also saw that there was a photographer there, and that console sits beside the keyboard and mouse, and ready to be used in different creative applications as well. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's surprising how much streaming there is, live streaming there is, which is nothing to do with gaming. We all tend to think of game streaming, but there are so many other applications it's used for now as well.
Exactly. Now, we continue our conversation earlier about configuration and customization of the Loupedeck products. Can you continue from where we stopped earlier?
Of course. Now, this is where I'm going to need the PowerPoint slide just to remember how much software we actually now integrate with. The list is getting longer and longer all the time.
All right, so
there we go. Look at that, as if by magic. So there are really sort of two types of integration with Loupedeck. Now, there's what we call a plugin. So these are primarily working in the creative field at the moment. So we've got video applications there like Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, Audition is an audio program. Plus you've got photographic editing software like Lightroom, like Photoshop. And that's great because my eyesight is going, so it's now nice and big so I can actually read it on the screen. So all these are what's called native plugins. So basically we've got from the software manufacturer, we've got from, let's say, Adobe, we've got their API. That basically allows us to control directly all the functionality within that software. So that's a really tight, really, really in-depth integration, and is the perfect way to do an integration. There's a lot more work involved, but it really is as close to the software as we can get. Just occasionally there's functionality within the software which we can't actually access via the API. But in most cases, all the functionality you get through your keyboard and your mouse, we can actually control. And as we said, out the box, the product works, and then you can customize to your own workflow. So you can put your own commands in there, any macros you happen to use in Photoshop or Lightroom, you can program all those in as well. However, there is a drawback with using the software manufacturer's API. The first is that quite often there isn't an API available from the software manufacturer. And also there's an awful lot of work, as I said, involved in actually getting that integration to work. So we have a thing now called a custom profile. Now the custom profiles are a little bit different in that basically these are work by using keyboard shortcuts, macros, and mouse movements. So your keyboard might need to be set up to a UK layout as opposed to a local layout to make these work. But it allows us to release a lot of very useful, very powerful integrations. So into things, a lot of digital audio workstations we have integrations for. We have an integration for Blender. We have an integration for DaVinci Resolve. Now, in these particular instances, the software API isn't available, but we can still make Loupedeck a really, really powerful tool when you're using that software. And as you can see on here, there's my favorite things like Excel in there, Google Chrome, even simple things like actually controlling your operating system. The best thing, or one of the great things I love about Loupedeck is if I want to control the volume of my laptop, rather than having to dig into a menu or find the keys, I just turn a knob on the top of the Loupedeck. Absolutely fantastic. But custom profiles actually allow us to go one step further. So if you're using a piece of software where we don't create a custom profile, so there's a list here of all the custom profiles we've made, you can actually create your own custom profile. So as we show on the next slide, for whatever software you are using, you can actually create. You've gone backwards, not forwards. I don't know. You can't get the stuff these days. I'll carry on anyway. So, next slide. Go on. Yay. Maybe not. There we go. So, there we go. So, with Loupedeck CT, Loupedeck Live, there's a piece of software included which is called Profile Creator. And this doesn't need any software skills, any programming skills at all. So basically what this allows you to do is for any software application you have on your computer, providing that you can control that via macros, keyboard shortcuts, mouse movements, which virtually every software out there, you've got a huge amount of control through those commands. You can basically program your Loupedeck to work those as well. So in my particular case, I tend to stream music when I'm working from home using a wireless hi-fi system. I have that set up on my Loupedeck. Took me about 10-15 minutes to set up. The programs, the files, the websites that I use on a regular basis are basically a button push away rather than having to go through various menus. So this makes the whole system really, really versatile. So you've got the deep integrations that we've done via the software API. You've got the custom profiles, which we have examples of on our website. And you've also got custom profiles that you can actually create yourselves. And early next year, we should also have actually on the Loupedeck website a cloud sharing system for custom profiles. So if you've created a custom profile for a particular piece of software, or maybe even you've taken one of our existing profiles, whether it's a plugin for, say, Lightroom, or one of the custom profiles we've actually created, you can modify that to your particular use, your particular workflow, and you can share that with everybody else. So again, this is going back to the community of users and making sure that we're creating products, creating profiles, creating software which best works for them.
I like how the Loupedeck, I think overall philosophy is just to be flexible and you know, continue to evolve and adapt to each individual user. That's marvelous. And it's all across the board. Every Loupedeck product carries that same philosophy. Now, I saw that this is why you mentioned earlier that you could use the Loupedeck CT on your Excel,
Yep.
because the custom profiles allow you really to map whatever it is to any application, you know, that you are using at any given time. Now,
so some of our partners, I mean, we were approached by Grass Valley, who make the Edios video editing software, and on our website is a custom profile for Edios, which they've created, because again, they see the potential of their users incorporating Loupedeck into their workflow.
That's amazing. And based on what you said, this product is for enthusiasts, hobbyists, and goes all up to creative professionals in different fields. So we can't wait, you know, to continue to get these products, especially the Loupedeck Live, and start sharing them in this region. Now, for those who are watching, there are content creators, photographers. You know, what are the advantages? Fine, they have this tactile, they have this console in front of them that they can use and operate side by side with a keyboard and mouse. But I'd like really to hammer on, because I'm a user myself. I'm a Loupedeck user myself. So, but I let you carry on. I let you talk about the advantages, you know, for creative people, especially those who need quicker turnarounds, more efficient workflows. You know, what type of advantages do they get from using Loupedeck?
There are two big advantages, which is what we've set the company up from day one. And it's all exactly as you said at the beginning about improving your workflow. So the first big advantage is it's breaking down the barrier between you and the software so you can be more creative. Rather than having to search through a menu to find a particular function or remember what a keyboard shortcut is, everything is there in front of you. And without a shadow of a doubt, it makes you more creative. So a lot of the functionality which is hidden away within Lightroom, within Photoshop, is immediately accessible at your fingertips. And again, because we're working closely with these software companies, we're able to react to changes they're making in their software. So Lightroom has just released a new version which has color grading in Lightroom. We had a pre-release copy. We already have control over Lightroom color grading. Photoshop is going to a new system called UX plugins, which is Adobe's new way of sharing software. We're already there. We're already working with Adobe to get that up and running. So it's all about releasing your creativity. Let's stop worrying about where a slider is on software, where a menu is. Let's be more creative. So that's goal number one. And surely as content creators, That's our first goal. We want to get the absolute best out of our work. We want to release that image you see in your mind, that color grade you have. You want to make that happen. So that's number one, and that's great, that's fantastic. But the other is efficiency. And as I said before, it doesn't matter what type of user you are. If you take the time to customize Loupedeck to what you want, it will make you more efficient. And that either means you're going to edit more videos, you're going to edit more photos, or you're going to spend less time doing that. Whatever is important to you. As I say, we're all working from home now. It could be that actually you want to spend less time editing your videos and you want to spend more time with your wife and family. It could be you actually just want to spend more time editing videos and be more efficient. But again, these can be customized to exactly what you want. We're all different.
That's amazing. Thank you so much once again, Andrew, for joining us. I think Loupedeck is a very interesting product, and it's being embraced here in the Middle East as well. There are a lot of content creators all across the region, and I hope that from watching this session, people get to know more about Loupedeck and continue to adapt and embrace and have their consoles right beside them, because everyone who's used it has improved efficiency in their workflow and able to produce accurate outputs. So Andrew, before we go, I'd like to ask you, is there anything, last message that you'd like to say to the viewers out here? Is there any, I know you've released the Loupedeck Live just now, but are you guys looking at something else? What's next after Loupedeck Live? Are you guys looking at developing another product out there and take us all by surprise?
Obviously there's always limitations of what we can share with you, but I think there's two things that I would say. The first, the message to people out there is that yes, we genuinely actually welcome feedback, whether that's through our social media or whether that's through the contact form on our website. Please give us your feedback. That's how we make things better. And yeah, we genuinely do listen to that, and it never ceases to amaze me that people are surprised that you can actually pick the phone up and talk to me, talk to our product team, talk to CEO. Yeah, we are all real people. As to the future, there's all sorts of exciting things coming up. One of the things that a lot of people within music have asked us for is MIDI control. So MIDI will be coming to Loupedeck CT and Loupedeck Live, hopefully by the end of the year. We will be working with a load of new creatives as well. So not just photo, video, music, but also in CAD CAM, in publishing. So there will be new integrations coming out, and new fields we'll move into as well. What the future holds, who knows? But the world is moving now from physical controls to actual virtual controls. So that could well be the next step. But, exciting stuff. Put it this way, I can guarantee that we're not going to be standing still.
Exciting times are ahead. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us in this session. Really appreciate it. I hope that in the next type of event that we're doing, you'll be actually here in the UAE, and we'll be able to show you around.
Going to say I'm looking forward to it, because bear in mind that in Helsinki now we're getting to the time of year where it's actually only daylight between about 9 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's getting very cold and very wet. So UAE sounds really exciting at the moment.
Well, let's plan for that. Once again, Andrew,
Definitely.
Thank you so much. I'll see you again
You're more
soon.
than welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much.